Okay, so again, that's misunderstanding the rules. Welcome everyone to our channel. My name is Dylan, and today I will be reacting to how realistic Dungeon and Dragon combat is from Shad. Okay, so I want to start by saying I really like Shad. I have frequent discussions with him, but I just want to correct a few things from a game perspective. If you don't know, we are working on our own role-playing and wargaming rule set that is Battle for Diratia, and we just released our latest update yesterday, so you can get the latest update link in the description below. And we also released our first ever scenario, the Queen's Visit, if you want to try it out. And please give us feedback. We are still actively working on the rule set to make it better. And while I'm at it, we also released our new Roman Legion miniature set. So if you want to get this, please go ahead and visit our My Mini Factory store and get your own set of wargaming miniatures. Okay, so now back to Shad's video.
How realistic is Dungeons and Dragons combat? I didn't even get into, and I hear 5th edition is pretty darn good. And so clearly it does the job what it needs to, because this is a game. It's not necessarily meant to reflect real life. But
okay, so I'm going to stop here first. So yes, Dungeons and Dragons works, because if it didn't, it wouldn't be the most popular role-playing rule set out there. But I also agree with Shad by the fact that I don't like Dungeons and Dragons either. I've tried it, I've played it a lot, and every time I get frustrated by the rule set exactly for the same reasons that Shad is getting frustrated here.
And if you think of something that is creative, and technically it should easily be able to be done in the real world, and then you are denied because the rules simply don't allow it, that is profoundly dissatisfying.
So again, same thing. One of the things that frustrated me most is, even if I'm level 1, I pick a dagger and I stab it in someone's neck, he shouldn't be turning around and killing me. Just saying.
It's actually around 10 foot, like literally from here to here. And just to point this out, I will, stand here, okay, and bring in a opposing version of myself just over in that square. Now, if we're in this square and we lean forward a bit, look how close our swords are coming to one another, okay? This is...
So, here I agree with Shad that staying at a 10-foot distance from an opponent when you're ready to fight and you're trying to gauge your opponent is realistic and is what you should do. Here, I think the problem is more with the grid system and with how the game rules go with the grid system.
The next oddity in the Dungeons & Dragons rules is the rule that you can only attack opponents 5 feet away from you with weapons that don't have reach. So let's just double check this. And this is with a one-handed weapon, not even a long sword, which is longer.
Okay, I'm gonna freeze frame here. My argument is you are in the adjacent square. Yes, your left foot hasn't left your initial square, but most of your body is in the other square. So I think the rules, the rules are saying when they say you need to be in the adjacent square, they mean exactly that most of your body needs to be in a 5-foot distance. if we measure based on the squares that are on the floor right now, Shad is about 5 foot from his dummy. He's not 10 foot from his dummy right now. He's 5 foot from his dummy. This again goes with the problem of using a grid system. And by the way, I don't use a grid system in my role-playing games. No matter if I use Dungeons and Dragons or any other, I use miniatures. But yeah, what I use is either a ruler or a tape measure or some small sticks to indicate distance using a ruler. But we're not limited by the grid using this. So you can go 1 inch diagonal and the measurements are all gonna be correct to real life.
Just without even moving, yeah, definitely. I can strike the opponent 10 feet away. But what if I go an additional 1 foot? And from here, just lunging.
I don't do HEMA. I do LARP. So here are a few of my LARPing swords. By the way, go and see Calamasil, the ones who make these swords. I have a link in there, the description, if you want one of their swords. But when I do martial arts, so I'm for a hand-to-hand martial art, you always want to be stable, and you always want to have a good balance in your feet. What you want is all of your weight to go into your attack. So you want to do a weight transfer from both of your feet to your attacking arm so that you do the most damage possible. And if you're not stable, if you miss your attack and an opponent can attack, let's say, Shad's feet right now, not in a way to hurt his feet, but in a way to destabilize him, he could fall over and be in a really bad situation. So reaching out like this, so extending that much, I think he would have almost no force behind his strike, and it also puts him in a dangerous situation. He's much better off just attacking like a bit before when he got his sword staff. Right now he's touching his opponent, but he's not putting force behind his attack. If he was to put force and want to penetrate the flesh and the armor that his opponent has, he would have to lunge even from this position to have quite some force behind his blow. So it's not just being able to touch and get to your opponent. You need to reach them with some force. It's not like we're doing some fencing, and if I touch you, no matter the strength of my blow, I get a point. It's supposed to represent real combat in which your attack needs to have enough force behind it to be damaging. And I think, from what I see of Shad's demonstration here, that when he's further away but you can do it. So lunge. I think he both doesn't have much force behind his blow, and he's unstable on his feet.
This one is debatable because for me to reach, that opponent, I'm going to have my back foot really on the edge of the square here and do a very large lean.
And again, demonstrating all of the points that I raised a bit earlier. So he's unstable, his blow is not really strong, and 99% of his body is in the square next to where he started. He's not in his initial square. So this, in my mind, And I know that in 5e it's different, but I never played 5e, so I'm not gonna get into it much. But in this situation, my argument is Shad made a step movement to the adjacent square, and then made his attack. That's
technically moving out of that square that is 10 foot away, and this then increases if the weapon has reached to 15 foot away from you, because it literally, physically can be done in the real world.
I really like his correction here. So he basically said that yes, most of his body is in the next square, but again, what we're talking about here is not a problem with necessarily the rules. It's a problem with the grid. The grid is the problem. And it's a problem in most games. Having a grid limits movement. So the other option is to not have a grid. But then you need to have measuring tools, like a tape measure. And some people don't like that, so they use grids. So I think it's a choice. You need to make a choice between having a grid or having nice terrain and using a measuring tool.
Here is that you should have the freedom to remain in the square that was 10 feet away from you, because you can attack people 10 feet away from you while keeping a foot in your starting position without...
Okay, so another thing about what I see here is I don't think Shad quite understands how Dungeons and Dragons rules are meant to be. Dungeons and Dragons, the turn is supposed to be all at the same time, and you're not making a single attack either. The mechanically you are only doing a single attack. And by the way, it's the same thing in Cogent. You're doing a single attack. You're doing a single roll. But so mechanically, it's a single attack. But storytelling wise, you're doing multiple attacks and multiple blocks during your turn. And at the end of the turn, then you have what's the result of that. So I know, and I agree with Shad, that Dungeons and Dragons doesn't give a good feel of that when playing Dungeons and Dragons. And it's the same thing with hit points. Hit points are more like chances. So I'm expanding energy and talent to survive a deadly blow. So if I have 20 hit points or 10 hit points, I don't remember what is a typical hit point count in D&D. So if I have, let's say, 10 hit points, and someone makes an attack on me, I expand, let's say, 3 hit points to avoid dying from or getting injured from his attack. And it takes some time, so that's why you can heal during a short rest in D&D, because you can rest and recover from that. You're not healing during a short rest, you're recovering from spent hit points. These are not injuries, they are hit points. When you watch a duel in a film or in a movie series, they're gonna hit themselves for, let's say, a minute before someone getting down, or someone getting defeated. So what happened during, if you split this minute in 6-second increments, they hit themselves and spent hit points to avoid being defeated. That's what hit points are. Not they are not wounds that you get. So that's how hit points work in D&D. I don't like it. I don't think that's how it should be, but that's what it is. So
5th edition, this is a little bit different. When looking through the rules, it really does seem like if you want to attack someone 10 feet away from you and remain in the same square from which you started, you would need to move 5 foot closer to the opponent, attack them, and then 5 foot back to the square you started from, using up 10 feet of your 30-foot movement distance in the round.
Okay, about this. Why would it be a problem that when you're doing your attack, you're using 10 feet of your 30-foot movement? You're moving. I don't have that much of a problem with that because you're using, let's say, 2 seconds of your turn to step forwards, attack, step backwards, and then start doing another movement in another direction. And since you made an attack, limiting your movement after that, I don't think is that big of a deal in my opinion.
And just while I think of it, I generally prefer meters over feet. I think feet is a little antiquated.
I also prefer meters over feet. Why do people still use feet? Meters are so much simpler.
Having exceptions in rules for stuff like this that are just logical and to reward player creativity. The next really odd thing about Dungeons & Dragons...
Okay, so that I agree. Dungeon masters should always be flexible and allow for things that logically would happen. That's one of my frustrations with a few DMs I've played with, is that they were playing by the rules and only by the rules, and no rules are going to be perfect, and that's the job of a DM, to make sure that everything's to adjust things on the fly and make sure that it's fun for everyone, compared to a video game where actions are pre-programmed. So you cannot do actions in a way that they're not intended to. You need to follow what's scripted in the game for it to work. The flexibility that we have on a role-playing game is that there's a DM that's there to check and balance all of that. And his job is to make sure that the game is fun for everyone.
Let's listen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, look, so at a casual pace, yes. So I think that is actually mostly realistic. And if you're sprinting...
So here I agree with Shad again. And that's one of the things that people don't realize, is that normally in combat, you're not going to be running around everywhere. You want to be on your feet, stable again, and ready to react to any attack against you. So you're going to do small steps, maybe quickly, to get to your opponent, but you're not going to lower your guard and start sprinting towards your enemy unless you're really far away from them. So if you're, let's say, 15 feet from your enemy, you won't sprint 15 feet to attack them. You'll move cautiously towards them.
Which stands as their role for the entire round and against every other opponent's combat role. And so even if I'm getting attacked by multiple opponents, I don't need to make successive rolls to adjust.
That's really cool, and I really love that from Cogent. It's perfect for what it's intended to do.
So instead of movement, I hit you, it's your turn, you can try and hit me. Oh, you missed my turn. Oh, double hit. Ah, haha.
Okay, so again, that goes to the misunderstanding that most players have of D&D and a lot of other role-playing games. So again, it's a game mechanic, the fact that I go, you go, and it's not an issue, it's more of a limitation of the game mechanic. And it's to make the game easier to run. It's easier for a DM to say, it's your turn, okay, then it's your turn. But storytelling wise, like a dungeon, like a Dungeon and Dragon turn, when you have a turn in combat, it's not each player has a 6-second turn. It's all of the turn is 6 seconds, and everyone is acting during this 6 seconds. So everyone's acting simultaneously. It's just mechanically you need to have everyone play one at a time to make it easier for the DM. So there, I think it's just, well, he's laughing about the mechanic, and I understand that. So,
but with how long the rounds could technically play out, because every single person's move should, by the rules, stand for 6 seconds, it just comes off feeling very janky, and no, that is not correct.
Okay, so again, that's misunderstanding the rules. A turn is 6 seconds. Each player's turn is 6 seconds. It's simultaneously. It's not 6 seconds, 6 seconds, 6 seconds, 6 seconds. And if you have 10 players, the turn is a minute. No, it's not that. It's not that.
Awkward. And it's always kind of annoyed me that you couldn't just do one wide sweep and try and hit multiple opponents around you. And look, you can do it with certain feats in Dungeons and Dragons, but even...
Yeah, that I agree. Feats in Dungeons and Dragons, I don't like either.
A noob should be able to just do a wide slash to offend a wider area. And so again, this is one of those things that logically you should be able to do, even if you're a level 1 noob, but the rules say you can't, which is annoying. A point of reference that I'll now demonstrate.
Which is annoying because I also don't like the mechanic of levels. Levels are stupid. I'm not level 1. I'm not level 10. I'm a person. So I have different skills at different levels. So then at this point, Shad does his promo for his game, and you should totally try Cogent. Cogent is really good. But since Shad is doing it, I'm gonna do it again. And yeah, you should go and try Battle for Diratia. And you should also join our Discord channel, and you should also give us feedback on our game. Yes, we have different priorities than Cogent, and when I talked to Shad about me wanting to build this role-playing system, Shad told me to try Cogent, and that's when I did. And I tried it, and I asked him if we could base our system on Cogent. And I really pushed for it. And we tried it, we playtested a few different things. And with our priorities on Battle for Diratia, we were not able to use Cogent as a base, because there are some things that were more important to us than what Cogent was bringing to the table. So when you're making a game, you need to set priorities and decide what mechanics you're going to include or exclude to give the players the experience that you're looking for based on your priorities. So why did I start working on Battle for Diratia with Zach and the team? Well, it's because there are some things, some priorities that we have for this role-playing game that are not answered by other role-playing games. So that's why we are trying to work on this. And we are currently, we've done weekly updates on our role-playing game for 3 months now. So if you want to learn about Battle for Diratia, go ahead, and it's version alpha 1.6 right now, and it's getting updated very frequently. So if you have feedback and playtest it, we will definitely take it into consideration. So thanks everyone for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you like that video, and I will see you on the next one.